Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're not just covering a new season of a show. We are diving headfirst into the final moments of a saga that has just captivated millions.
It really has.
We're talking about Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1, and the explosive new details surrounding this ultimate showdown with Vecna. The stakes are, frankly, beyond anything we've seen before.
Oh, absolutely. The footage that's been released, it paints a picture of, aggressive, calculated warfare.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, right? We're going to take all these fragmented looks we have, the confirmed plot points, these little glimpses of battle, and that critical one-year time jump.
And try to synthesize the scope and, the sheer peril of this final fight. Because when the dust settles, Hawkins is either going to be free or it's going to be completely consumed.
And it starts in such a different world, November 1987. That's nearly a full year after Season 4.
Yeah, that time jump is huge. The rift isn't some small hidden wound anymore. It's actively fracturing reality. So we need to figure out how they're surviving, what this desperate, complex strategy of theirs is.
And who might be paying the ultimate price.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, starting with the environment. That time jump, almost 12 months, that's the first critical piece of data.
It is, because this show doesn't usually do huge jumps like that.
Right. Usually the trauma from one season spills right into the next. The fact that they skipped almost a full year tells me two things. One, that trauma has had time to settle, to fester.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the upside down has had time to really, truly take hold.
Precisely. Which brings us to this idea of Hawkins under siege. This isn't the sleepy Midwest town anymore, is it?
Not at all. That rift that opened at the end of Season 4, it tore right through the landscape. It's drawn a massive amount of attention. And the footage shows us immediately that Hawkins is basically a quasi-military state now.
You can see it everywhere. There's heavy surveillance, military infrastructure is visible. Government personnel are entrenched. This creates a strategic nightmare for our group. It's a dual threat.
Yeah, it's not just hiding from monsters in the basement anymore.
No. They have to wage war against the supernatural entities, the Demogorgons, Vecna's hive mind, while at the same time staying completely hidden from a government military manhunt.
And the target of that manhunt is, of course, still 11.
Always. She's the central target. Every move they make, every piece of tech they use, every safe haze they occupy to fate Vecna just increases the risk of exposing her.
It's got to be exhausting. Imagine the psychological toll of preparing for the apocalypse while also, constantly looking over your shoulder for the army.
It's not just action-adventure anymore. It's a high-stakes espionage thriller mixed with horror.
I think that pressure, that constant weight, is what forces them to change their whole approach, which leads us to their core mission: hunt or be hunted.
That's a great way to put it. In Season 4, they were mostly reacting, right? Defending, trying to patch holes.
But now, everything we see suggests they are done with defense. They're on a clear, visceral offensive. The mission is to find and eliminate Vecna once and for all.
And you can see that change the dialogue. It's not about closing gates anymore. It's about extinguishing the source. And if you really want to understand the personal motivation behind this aggressive shift, you just have to look at Dustin.
That line is chilling. We hear him deliver this remarkably dark, focused line where he says he wants to see Vecna's heart on a platter.
That's a complete departure from his usual witty, nerdy strategist persona, isn't it?
Completely. It is pure, unadulterated vengeance.
And it's the emotional core of the season's opening. That line is a direct result of the trauma from Season 4, specifically Eddie Munson's death. Dustin is operating with a level of personal rage we just haven't seen from him.
And the context is so important. We hear this line before we see him all bruised and beaten up later in the footage.
Right, which suggests this intense, offensive, almost reckless tone is set right from Episode 1. The memory of Eddie has transformed their mission from just, saving Hawkins to actively seeking retribution.
And that desire for retribution is only going to be fueled by the emotional baggage they're all carrying, which I think is best represented by the absence of Max.
Definitely. Sadie Sink is noticeably missing from those initial rallying scenes, which makes perfect sense given her injuries. She's still in a coma.
Max's coma is it's the constant agonizing reminder of their failure in Season 4. Her absence is not just a plot detail. It's this narrative anchor that makes the threat feel real for every single member of the party.
Especially for Lucas. We know he's been by her side this whole time.
And that raises a huge question about his motivation, right? How does he reconcile this fierce dedication to the fight with leaving Max, the person he loves, vulnerable in a hospital? It must be an impossible choice.
It has to be. He's not just fighting for the world anymore. He's fighting specifically to make sure that her sacrifice and her suffering wasn't for nothing. If they fail, she'll never wake up in a world worth coming back to.
Her coma just ensures that every single character enters this final fight carrying that immense, agonizing weight. It's more than survival.
It's about fighting for the possibility of a future that actually includes her, which makes their aggressive, maybe even terrifyingly reckless plan make a lot more sense.
Reckless is the perfect word. Moving from the emotional stakes to their actual strategy, we literally hear Mike call the plan insane.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. This isn't one of their usual simple plans. The scope is massive. It's a coordinated multi-front assault using technology, radio signals, and spreading their group's fin across multiple high-risk locations.
They've learned their lesson, it seems. They know the Upside Down is too entrenched to be beaten back with, like a single act.
Exactly. They need to do systemic damage to the hive mind. Which brings us to what I'm calling the antenna gambit with Steve and Dustin.
Okay, let's break this down. We see them in Steve's car, and it's rigged with this huge, really conspicuous antenna.
Right, and Dustin is super confident in the tech, but Steve's skepticism is palpable. He even notes that they're hardly inconspicuous. It just highlights the risk of them being so visible.
So what is this antenna actually doing? It seems to be the centerpiece of their tech operation. I think we have two main theories here.
I agree. Theory A is all about luring or disruption. We know Vecna's control operates through sound and frequency, right? The clock chimes, using music to break his hold.
So this antenna could be used to broadcast a really powerful, maybe even destructive frequency directly into the Upside Down.
And that ties back perfectly to earlier teases. We saw Steve adjusting volume levels in the WSQ van. This suggests it's a dedicated, maybe custom, signal designed to be so loud or so disruptive that it could either lure the Demogorgons out like bait,
or more aggressively cause direct physical harm to the creatures, or the Mind Flayer's whole network. Now that the rift is so huge, it's like a targeted digital strike against a psychic entity.
Yeah. Then you have Theory B, which is more about communication and coordination.
Okay.
We know Hopper and Eleven are operating deep inside the Upside Down, probably heading for Hawkins' lab itself. Given the dimensional static and the distance, a massive antenna like that might be the only way to get a stable, long-range radio link between the team in the right side up and the strike team in Dimension X.
Both theories, though, they converge on one critical signifier, don't they? The flickering streetlights.
Yes. That electrical disruption is the visual cue for us, the audience. If the lights start flickering violently, it means one of two things. Either their signal is successfully reaching the Upside Down and causing activity,
or there's major enemy movement happening nearby. Gates opening, creatures in the tunnels. It's their Geiger counter spiking.
Exactly. And that level of coordinated tech warfare, it demands a command center, which leads us to the operational hubs.
The WSQ radio station, the SWAC van base, is clearly the nerve center. We see Joyce's car there, which places Joyce, Will, Jonathan, and Nancy at that station, managing the whole attack.
And this is way more sophisticated than their past efforts. We get these audio cues that suggest a huge synchronized event is happening. We hear Mike on the radio just saying, boom.
And more importantly, that full countdown. Burn commencing in 5, 4, 3, 2.
And we see everyone, Joyce, Will, Eleven, Nancy, Robin, all listening in at the radio station.
So let's try to synthesize this whole insane plan. It seems like it's multi-phase. Phase 1 is setting the digital stage with the antenna. That's Steve and Dustin.
Right. The lure or communication.
Then phase 2 is this massive physical event, the burn commencing. But what's the target?
Well, given the focus on Hawkins' lab and the rift in the town center, the most likely target is the epicenter of that dimensional overlap. It could be a huge explosion, maybe thermal or chemical, designed to destabilize the main gate.
Which would need the radio team at WSQ to coordinate and initiate it safely. The scale is just immense.
It really is. You've got a team in the Upside Down Hopper and L, a tech and lore team on the ground, Steve and Dustin, and the command and control group at the radio station. To manage all that, they need every single asset they have,
including their younger, sharper assets, which brings us to that moment that just perfectly encapsulates the high-risk, desperate nature of this mission. Recruiting Erica.
We see Mike and Lucas in the hallway of Hawkins Middle School. You can tell by the blue wall lines, it grounds it in this very mundane public setting.
But the background detail is so crucial. On the wall right there is a Jane Hopper missing poster.
Yeah, and that's a reminder to us and to the characters that they are not safe. The military is actively hunting their strongest weapon. Recruiting Erica in a public school hallway just highlights the extreme pressure they're under.
And then Erica shows up, clicks a timer on her watch, and says, "Time's up."
It's clearly a covert exchange. They're bringing her into the fold. And it makes sense given her strategic mind in the Hellfire campaign. They need her acuity.
Maybe for quick calculations or a tech intervention, or, given the timing, maybe she has to execute some small but critical part of the burn commencing plan.
It's a moment of deep narrative necessity. The writers know she's smart, sharp, and fearless. And using a middle schooler in a world-saving plan is inherently reckless.
Which is exactly why Mike calls the plan insane. It proves they're desperate enough to use unconventional assets under immense danger, all while trying to dodge government agents.
And if the planning feels like a desperate chess game, the active combat footage is where the board gets flipped over completely.
Yeah, we go from coordination straight to chaos. And the most terrifying thing is the evolution of the enemy. The single stalker Demogorgon is gone. Now we're facing a unified Demogorgon army.
The visual evidence for the sheer volume of monsters is staggering. I mean, we are not talking about singular threats anymore. We see multiple Demogorgons 3 in one shot, bursting out of mini rifts in the ground.
They're just popping up like weeds so quickly and aggressively, chasing characters, attacking soldiers.
And that volume changes everything. In past seasons, they could handle 1, maybe 2 Demogorgons with a coordinated effort. But facing 3 or more at once, knowing the Mind Flayer is orchestrating it, they are severely outnumbered. This is a full-scale invasion.
And that invasion is hitting the military occupation head-on, which leads to the massacre at the military base.
The location is right in downtown Hawkins. You can see Melvold's General Store. The invasion is happening in the center of town. We see soldiers moving cautiously, weapons drawn.
And then it's just absolute carnage. This sequence basically confirms that the military, while a threat to L, is completely useless against these things. They are cannon fodder.
Totally. They're walking slowly, standard weapons. They are not prepared for interdimensional monsters.
And there's some speculation about a satisfying death for a certain human antagonist, right?
Right. We see one soldier who stands out. It could be Colonel Sullivan, based on his arc from Season 4. He's holding a pistol, not a rifle, which can signal a command position. The poetic justice of him being taken out by the very monsters he refused to believe in.
It'd be incredibly resonant. And we get that visual confirmation of a massive explosion at the base during the attack. It's just utter annihilation.
But the terrifying part is how decentralized it is. It's not just downtown. The threat is immediately compromising their own headquarters. We see immediate danger for Robin and Murray.
3 Demogorgons emerge from gates that have ripped open right outside the WSQ radio station, their own hub.
It means the tunnels are reactivated and branching out everywhere. There's no safe place left in Hawkins. And then we see Robin and Murray in that Bradley's Big truck, trying to flee. The shot is terrifyingly close, with the Demogorgons gaining on the driver's side.
And then there's Murray's reaction. He's maniacally laughing and shouting, "I have no idea, but I love it."
It's classic Murray, but in this context, it feels incredibly ominous. He's facing certain death with this hysterical, desperate joy.
And this is why so many people think this sequence frames Murray as a dead man walking.
I think it's a strong theory. If you look at his arc, he's the conspiracy theorist who became a hero. A death like that cornered, in a chaotic chase, yanked from the cab by 3 Demogorgons, that would meet the promise of a brutal end.
And it would be a huge emotional shock without sacrificing one of the core younger kids. His laughter could be this final resigned acceptance of the chaos he always knew was real.
It would be a devastating emotional beat for early in Volume 1.
Yeah, it definitely would. Meanwhile, the other groups are engaged in their own desperate acts of defense and offense. We see Nancy and Jonathan behind a makeshift bar in some new house.
And the lights are flickering. That's the signal. An imminent intrusion.
Nancy is packing heat. She's got firearms. Jonathan has a flare, which we know is a key defensive tool. And Steve is wielding a literal chainsaw.
Not a spiked bat. A chainsaw.
It's the perfect evolution for him, isn't it? He started with a baseball bat, graduated to the spike bat, and now, facing an army, he's moved up to a tool of blunt industrial violence.
It cements his role as the group's brutal, necessary field commander. He's ready to meet this increased savagery with equal force.
And we can't forget Joyce and Will. They're cornered, too. Joyce has an axe in a barn. A Demogorgon is about to break through the wall.
And Will's line there is absolutely pivotal. I know where we are.
Yes.
That small line confirms his connection is still crucial. He's not just a victim anymore. He's actively providing spatial awareness, guiding them. Or, perhaps more dangerously, his presence is a subconscious beacon.
Making him both the guide and the ultimate target.
Precisely.
Will's line is the perfect transition, really. It moves us from the immediate threat into the deeper mysteries and lore that Volume 1 has to address. If he's guiding them, it raises that terrifying question of Vecna's omnipotence.
How does Vecna constantly know where they are? We hear him say, "Found you." If Will isn't a conscious spy, how is Vecna keeping tabs on everyone across dimensions?
Well, he's demonstrated this near omniscience before, hasn't he? In Season 4, he knew Nancy and Robin went to Penhurst to see Victor Creel. He doesn't need physical surveillance.
No, he doesn't. The leading theory, I think, is that Vecna doesn't need a mole or a camera. He exploits the deep psychic scarring of his victims. You could call it his cerebro mode, like in X-Men.
So he's using their trauma as an interdimensional frequency.
Exactly. Think about it. He targets victims through their trauma. The Upside Down is intrinsically linked to Hawkins and the psychic residue of Henry Creel's actions. Will has the deepest, most persistent link to that dimension.
He was possessed by the Mind Flayer.
So his ability to sense Vecna is almost certainly reciprocated. Will's intense emotional state, his fear, his knowledge, it all acts like a radio transmitter, making him highly visible on Vecna's dimensional radar.
It's an agonizing feedback loop. The very thing that makes him essential to the fight is also what gives Vecna a direct line to him and the entire party.
The trauma is the weapon, and the location is irrelevant. And we've been told that the opening 5 minutes of the season will specifically establish this greater connection between Will and Vecna. We should expect some major lore drops right away.
Moving beyond the characters, the physical landscape of the Upside Down is showing us brand new mysteries, specifically this mysterious upside-down wall.
Yeah, 11 is shown looking at this massive, unexplained structure, and she asks the question we all have, what is that?
It's so compelling because it forces us to rethink what Dimension X actually is. This is a massive structural feature.
There are two main possibilities, I think. First is that this wall is the literal border of the Upside Down, aligning with the physical fractures in Hawkins. Maybe the two dimensions are pressing together, and this is the hard boundary.
Or the more exciting theory is that this wall is the ultimate barrier, the membrane between the Upside Down and the right side up. Not just a place, but a functional element of the rift itself.
And the context of the scene is powerful. Hopper and 11 are standing right by this wall looking up, and what they're looking at is almost certainly that massive explosion, the burn commencing, rippling across the sky of the Upside Down.
So if the wall is the barrier, then the energy of that explosion is hitting it directly, which suggests it's a critical structure that they might be trying to breach or collapse.
It also makes you question the nature of the Upside Down itself. Is it a true mirror dimension, or is it an alien reality that Vecna just imposed a copy of Hawkins onto?
If it's the latter, this wall could be an indigenous structure, a secret of Dimension X itself. 11's curiosity signals a huge mythological revelation is coming.
And finally, we see the team making strategic use of known enemy territory by returning to old haunts. Nancy, Jonathan, Dustin, and Steve are driving Steve's car right at a rapidly closing gate.
That scene is so urgent. Steve barely makes it through, losing a side mirror. It just confirms how volatile these portals are.
And the lore behind the location is so satisfying for longtime fans. The farmland is speculated to be McCorrell Farm.
Which is important because...
In Season 2, Dustin mentioned McCorrell Farm in a fake phone call to cover his tracks with Dart. But more importantly, McCorrell Farm was the known location of the Upside Down's vast tunnel network in Season 2.
So this callback confirms the conflict is returning to known enemy territory. The tunnels they thought they burned out are reactivated and being used by the Demogorgon army.
It's a brilliant piece of continuity. It shows that their past victories were just temporary setbacks for the enemy, not final resolutions. The threat persists.
And the scope of this attack, the huge volume of monsters, the aggressive plan, it means one thing is certain. Death is coming, and it's going to be brutal.
But the footage seems to be actively trying to mislead us on who's in the most danger.
You're talking about Lucas as the red herring.
Exactly. He is constantly framed in situations that just scream imminent death. We see him with a crowbar stuck in tight spaces, apparently pinned between two Demogorgons.
Every dramatic moment with him suggests he's the most likely to be a shocking casualty.
And that's precisely why we have to see him as a potential red herring. When the marketing pushes one character so obviously toward the chopping block, it's often a calculated misdirection.
Okay, but let me challenge that. Narratively, if you want the highest emotional impact and the most cruel consequence, Lucas is the perfect target. He's been the most dedicated, the most emotionally scarred by Max's state. Killing him while she's still in a coma would be devastating. It's the cruelest outcome, which sometimes makes it the most effective for a final season.
That's a fair point. It would make the outcome feel genuinely unpredictable and unfair, which reflects real loss in a conflict. But you also have to remember, the writers have set up Lucas as the emotional anchor for Max's recovery. Removing him eliminates that whole narrative path, which might feel dissatisfying, not just cruel.
True, we have to look beyond the obvious, especially because of the source confirmation around the violent ending tease.
The Duffer Brothers have been explicit. Season 5 will feature the most violent death yet in the entire series. That is a massive promise.
For a show that's already had some pretty gruesome deaths. So if we look past Lucas, who are the other viable candidates for an end that brutal?
Murray is a strong one, as we discussed. He's already in the most perilous chase scene. But what about Steve, the group's field commander? He's always been central to the physical fights. A death where the Demogorgon army overwhelms him, maybe even while he's using that chainsaw.
That would be physically violent and emotionally devastating.
And don't dismiss Jonathan. His arc has been quiet but crucial. If he sacrifices himself to save Will, fulfilling that lifelong protector role, that could be a violent, emotionally shattering end that fits the bill. The writers are making it clear that no one is safe.
But to counter all that darkness, we do have the promise of immense power, focusing on 11.
Yes, 11's display of power. We see that one specific shot of her running and leaping over a fence, seemingly right into the military base facility that's inside the Upside Down.
It's a critical visual. She's not just standing still and using telekinesis. This is an athletic, almost acrobatic leap right into the heart of the enemy's infrastructure. It shows a new, unrestrained confidence.
It signals she's no longer hesitant about her abilities or her identity. She's embracing the fight, heading directly to the source, presumably the nexus of Vecna's power inside the upside-down version of Hawkins' lab.
Her full, maybe newly expanded power is going to be the critical element that turns the tide.
And it suggests she's operating on a totally different level now. It's not just about raw power blasts anymore. It's tactical, fluid mastery of her skills. She is ready to finish this.
This deep dive really confirms that Volume 1 is not a slow introduction. It is a rapid, explosive launch into the final chapter of this war.
The strategic complexity, the sheer volume of the monster threat, the personal quest for vengeance, it all points to a relentless conclusion.
And to recap the final timeline, we're looking at Volume 1 dropping on November 26th, Volume 2 arriving on Christmas Day, December 25th.
And the series finale itself wrapping everything up on New Year's Eve, December 31st. We're getting the entire intense conclusion in just over 1 month.
And while the main story ends here, the universe is expanding. The Duffer Brothers are creating an animated spin-off, Stranger Things, Tales from 85 for 2026.
It's reassuring to know the world will continue, but yeah, the central, terrifying conflict ends now. Everything hinges on this final push.
So as we close this out, the scope of this final battle raises one last provocative question for you to think about. We know Vecna's power and the dimension itself are tied to emotional trauma and the physical rifts in Hawkins. So if they succeed, if they destroy Vecna, the 5-star general, does the threat truly vanish? Or, given the deep psychic scar he's left on the dimension, does the original trauma of Hawkins remain eternally branded onto the Upside Down?
Ensuring that Dimension X always lingers, just waiting for the next catalyst, even without a commanding villain. A horrifying thought that the wound is permanent, even if the weapon is broken.
Get ready for November 26th. You are now fully prepped for the final ride.